Unfortunately, three young troops who were out on the perimeter had gone to sleep and got their throats slit. My thought, quite frankly, was this is Korea all over again. China has entered the war.
I have that you found a landmine tripwire through a gut feeling.
Went to bed and woke up, and there's green tracers going by the window. And you go, oh, shit. That means they're in here.
Yeah.
They use green tracers, and ours were all red. So it was a no good, very bad night. Basically, we didn't do anything. What had happened was Special Forces, one of the first teams in the area on the airstrip by Canto, and so things had moved out from there. So we were actually damn near in the center, surrounded by American units. Unfortunately, three young troops who were out on the perimeter had gone to sleep and got their throats slit because they were all asleep. And what happened was there was a lieutenant who was going out to, check the guard, and damned if he doesn't run into them on the airstrip and calls in, and then so the fight starts from there. And a lot of their folks got dead that night. I mean, they were able to bring in reinforcements. My point was we had no idea this was coming. And I'm listening on the radio as, all over the country, town after town and the cities and capitals are falling, and you're going, my thought, quite frankly, was this is Korea all over again. China has entered the war. How could we see that big, invasion that had no preparation for? Now, it turns out, and I didn't learn until, I think it was a 60 Minutes special or something that came up, that Saigon knew. And there were American units that had been alerted. We had no idea it was coming in. Everything in the whole district was lost. At that time, I had a B team at Chowdhuck, and this is where Drew Dix actually got a Medal of Honor, because there were people that were downtown. A big deal there were, we had nurses downtown. Well, the B team commander would not allow anybody to leave the compound. Well, Drew was working with Phoenix, and he says, screw you. I work for the agency. And he went out, and that's a whole story worth learning. And but they went out and found the nurses downtown, saved them, and brought them back. But everything except the compound was under, and the same thing was true kind of across the area. In our area, i.e. the Delta there, the problem was they had been ordered to attack and didn't want to, but Ho Chi Minh was calling a thing. They had no plan for success. So after a while, okay, we got this. Now what do we do? And it went back into the mountains and back across the border into Cambodia. So kind of went down. And one of the things I had done, though, is watching this, I called and I said, let's pull one of the companies off of Nui Kham. Nui Jai we definitely needed to keep, but that's just to get more troops down, because obviously the fighting was going to be down on the high level, not in the mountains, which is where we normally had operations.
I have that you found a landmine tripwire through a gut feeling in Vietnam. Can you tell us about that?
Well, that particular one, we were just out walking and got into an area. This was the mountains. We were at the foot, not foothills. It's just starting to rise up, but kind of jungle area. And it was we were just wandering around, and started backing up. And the lieutenant go, mean, mean, mean. And looked down, and across the back of my heel, I had already started to pull the tripwire. And obviously it didn't go off. So, yeah, that sort of stuff happened. We hit mines a number of times.
How much time did you spend over there?
Well, I was there a full year. Kind of unusual because most commanders stayed in for 6 months at a time. And I had come from commanding another A-team in Thailand.
What were you doing in Thailand?
Well, we were training the Thais, and it was kind of interesting. We went over as Delta Company the first. This was organized at what was then Fort Bragg. And it's quote, the original good deal. You know, everybody was signing up and going over. What I never knew until just a few years ago is this was actually considered a strategic move. That they were literally worried about losing Vietnam and the stuff would go into Thailand. No, they had the CT, which were communist terrorists, and kind of small action, but this was gearing up to, literally be the next barrier in case Vietnam fell. We, of course, didn't know that. We were on training missions. I opened several camps. One was Nanticoke. When we went in, it was an area not much bigger than what we're sitting here, a little hole in the jungle. And a year later, when we left, there was an airstrip, and they're flying. But we were working with the Royal Thai Special Forces, and could bring in ability to recruit companies and training them. They had a few that they did send to Vietnam, but most of this was geared to fight in Thailand. And then we had gone to Ubon, Udorn, Sakon Nakhon, and then down Khao Yai, down in the south. We had teams scattered all over Thailand that were doing the same thing.
Going back to Vietnam, you'd spent an entire year there.
Yep.
And that Vietnam was, the carnage and the death and the loss of life that you must have seen there. Was it a daily occurrence?
Actually, no.
No.
No, there were periods. They were peak periods. Our fighting was more kind of on the mountain. Well, skip the whole set. You asked about missions. One of the things that would happen is that we would periodically get air assets. And they would normally send like 4 slicks, 4 snakes, and 4 OH-6 observation helicopters. And so what would happen is they would send them in, and we'd take a pair of snakes and a pair of cobras and a pair of loaches, and I would go with the loaches, and we would literally go out hunting.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.